With very little money, you've built up a nice portfolio. How much on average would you say you're making from the deal selling?
£20,000 a month.
£20,000 a month.
Wow. Got one in London and then the rest are in Hertfordshire. How much does that make profit across the 5?
It's about £5,000 a month.
Are you surprised that you're making 20 grand plus you've got 5 rent to rent?
I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised how quick it's taken. From watching a YouTube video to go into a pound crash course to sitting in this chair today, it's been such a journey.
You've given us the blueprints. All we've done is taken action.
Well, thanks for coming down to my house. Welcome to Winners on a Wednesday. Gav and Mitch, you are identical twins, so it's been difficult for me mentoring you to know the difference between the two of you. But why don't you just give us a snapshot as to your backgrounds and why you decided to get into property?
Our story is pretty much identical. We started school, got to A-level, both got kicked out at 16, 17. Yeah. We both got taken into the same office, and the head teacher basically said, one of you got 3 U's, one of you got 3 U's and an E, so you're both getting kicked out. So we left school, same day, same clothes, pictures, left. And then we ended up doing recruitment together.
Yeah. Recruitment was good fun. I think recruitment was the starting point of my sales journey. Just sitting there constantly up and down the blower all day, getting a lot of rejection where everyone around you is doing the placements, and you know, it's like a sales office. Everyone's up there ringing the bells, drawing on the boards, doing deals. So you got shaped very, very quickly. I only did that for a year, and then I went traveling. I left the country, got fed up.
So whilst he was traveling that year, I was still working in recruitment, progressed the way up, and then I was getting paid £150 a week, which was ridiculous. I was just grafting, living at home, and then he went traveling. We've got an older brother who's actually in Australia at the minute. So I decided after that whole year, I'll go travel Australia, meet Mitch for a month, meet my older brother for a month, and then travel for a month. And then that 3-month holiday turned into a 4-year trip.
So when we met then, where were you living and what were you doing when we met about sort of 6 months ago?
I just got back to the UK. When we decided we were going to come back, I was still working. Gav hung up his, threw his towel in, hung up his boots a few months earlier and started doing loads of research. He knew that we needed to come back, find a mentor, start a business that will generate a monthly cash flow and move towards the high ticket items. Just so we were doing a lot of work for a very small profit over in Australia. So then Gav did loads of research, came across you on YouTube. And then when we came back, I was literally in the country for maybe 3-4 weeks when we came to a crash course. Yeah, it started from there.
So why did you choose property then? So you spent a lot of time researching what business to get into. You wanted to get into something that was high ticket where you could get paid high sums of money.
Yeah.
What was it about property that made you come to the crash course?
Yeah, I've always wanted to get into property, and I've watched loads of property stuff, and I wanted to get into flips. But when I got to the end of my Australian experience, I kind of just reviewed everything because I had quite a bit of time, and I noticed that the products we were selling, the CEOs or the owners were getting paid on some sort of subscription. So I needed to find something that paid me monthly. I was looking obviously into London, the rates, the bills, everything was so expensive, so I needed a business. And then over there we had a mentor, so that was the third goal. I needed to find a mentor when we got back to start the journey and to progress through. So I started YouTubing, and I thought property pays you monthly. You also can build wealth with property, and we found a mentor within property. So Mitch came back from work. It was actually Evan's Financial Freedom Challenge I was watching. That's what got me into it. And then when Mitch got back from work, he was like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Honestly, I don't actually know, but just sit down and watch this. Like, it's incredible what he's just done." And then I had to rewatch it with Mitch from the beginning, and it started to make sense. And then when we got back, we came to the £1 crash course, and then we got into it straight from there. Yeah.
Haven't looked back.
Because I think with properties, there's a lot of ways you can make money. You can, as you mentioned, you can flip properties, buy, do up, sell. You can also trade properties, so package it and sell it before you've even owned it, like deal sourcing, which is what you've done quite successfully, and control properties, subscription model, almost with properties. So why don't you just talk about, you know, what strategy you decided to do, and maybe talk us through your first deal and how long it took to get your first deal from when you met me, came to the crash course, and went full out in property.
for me, because I've traveled quite a lot, I've stayed in shared houses, and I've also stayed in really luxury Airbnbs in the middle of a jungle on the beach. And I just love that service that you provide in like service accommodation Airbnbs. So that's the route we went down.
So what is service accommodation and what is rent to service accommodation? How does it work?
Well, rent to service accommodation is where you rent a property from a landlord or an owner or a vendor, and you take it on through your company as a corporate let, and then you turn it into an Airbnb or rent it out on Airbnb or bookings.com. Yeah, fully furnished, all your bills are paid for, and you charge a premium on a nightly basis instead of renting it on a monthly basis to your clients or your guests.
But why would a landlord rent their property to you, even if you're prepared to pay the full market rent, when then they know that you're just going to put it on Airbnb, have guests in and out, trailing through the property, wear and tear on the carpets? Why would a landlord agree to that?
So there's multiple reasons. Most importantly, it's just hands off. Obviously, as a company, we're going to take on the maintenance and keep the level of the property at its highest. And for the landlord, they just don't really do anything. They just get paid guaranteed rent for a long period of time. And they're happy, we're happy, and then the guests are happy.
Yeah, I mean, the landlords we work with, they just love the aspect that we are maintaining the property. We do get cleaners before and after every guest as well. And it's just hassle-free. They've never needed to chase us for rent or make sure the bills are paid. Anything, the second something goes wrong, we'll be there to fix it. We haven't had any major problems, to be honest.
We don't even spend much time on them, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe like 15, 20 minutes a week managing all of them.
Wow.
About 5 of them, yeah.
So you spend about 15 minutes managing 5 properties,
Yeah.
and their service accommodation.
Yeah.
How do you systemize it? How do you find the guests and check them in? How does the whole process work?
The main thing is when we first started, we kept on getting these bookings and realizing that they were from companies. So we would call the guest. The amount of time we've FaceTimed the guest as well, just to introduce ourselves. They're showing us around the property. Hey, I love the property. And we just build that relationship with the guests, the people that book it, and then the neighbors on either side as well. Because the neighbors, once you put in a good word and they like you, their family will come and visit. One of our neighbors is from Finland, and their family comes over all the time, and they book it instead of the hotel down the road. Now their family comes and books our service accommodation unit. So I think if you talk to everyone about what you're doing, you will get the bookings. But speaking to big companies, calling the guests and introducing yourself, building that relationship, asking what they're doing in the area, find out what company they're working for, and then just call the company and say, I've spoken to the person staying there. What is the reason for the work in the area? I do have other properties. Do you need to send more staff down? And just being proactive about how you're finding guests instead of just hoping for the best and putting it on like OTAs and Airbnb and bookings.com.
But to add to that, the team that you need to build around you, like our cleaner is amazing. She literally takes control of all of our properties. We refer people to her, so then her business is growing, our portfolio is growing, and the deals that we're selling, you've got the power team there. So that cleaner then does everything that obviously is self-checking with a lockbox. But when she goes in to clean, she'll send me pictures before, pictures after. If there's any slight problems within 20, 30 minutes, she would go and pick up the part or fix the problem, send me a picture, and then she just sends me an invoice at the end of the month.
How do you build your power team just generally, like your channel manager, your cleaners, maintenance?
It was quite hard to find it to start with. I think there's so many out there. You kind of have to interview them to see if they're the right fit for your business. And we sat down with her and we showed her around the properties and we asked her opinion. How long do you reckon it's going to take you? What's your feedback on the property? Is this something you're capable of? How fast are you able to grow? Do you have the capacity to take on, let's say, 5 properties by the end of the month? And she just ticked all the boxes. She's done
that's one
very
of
well
the
for
key
herself.
questions is to ask your cleaner if they've got a team as well, not just cleaners, but if they've got the maintenance team. With her husband is our maintenance and he's got a construction company. So now we're moving on to BRRs. We've already built that relationship through the cleaner and then with him, and then he's going to help us out with further projects. But because the cleaner's going to be in the property cleaning, if she noticed something, she doesn't call me first. We told her up to a certain amount, fix it, and then send us the invoice. So then she'll just call her partner, he'll come fix it, and then...
And that's why it's passive, because of the team.
Yeah, we don't do anything.
Well, we're about to use their funds and their team to do a BRR, and we're not putting money in it. We're using investors' funds and some of the build from the power team as well. They're doing the build with like free of charge effectively, and we're paying them afterwards if we flip it or refinance, and they get a percentage of.
So talk me through this BRR then. How did you find it? Because that's the biggest question that I get asked is, how do you find good deals? So BRR, buy, refurbish, refinance, rent.
Yeah.
So you're recycling all your money. How did you find it?
Yeah, so we're very active in the sense of scraping all the internet, Rightmove, Zoopla, finding really rundown properties really. And also because my background is direct sales, I much prefer walking into the agencies, stopping people on the street, speaking to the people at the coffee shops, and speaking to people and get to know people. They end up just calling you all the time. When you walk to an agency and you ask, hey, I'm looking for this property, I'm a cash buyer, what do you have? And they give you a list, be like, can we go and see one now? I'm really keen. Then they get their backpack on, get the keys and come down the street with you, and they show you all these properties. But now they know what we're looking for. It's not the point, we don't need to go online anymore, because they call us, be like, hey Mitch, we've got this property. Get your name out there. I think the more attention you bring to yourself, the more deals will come as well. And just get your name out.
Because we started with the rent to rents with the agents in our patch, so we don't go outside of our patch, we just dominate that area. So these agents have seen us start with rent to rents and seen us get 1, then 2, then all the way up to 5, which we've got at the minute. And then we started deal selling with the agents. So the agents have seen us progress as well. So all we need to do is say, hey, I'm changing strategy. I need the worst house on the best street. And then they know what we're doing because they've helped us out for the last 5-6 months. So now the agents are on board. We've got multiple agents in the patch, which just call us up and say, hi, I've got this property for service accommodation, or I've got this property, it might be good for your investors, or I've got this property, which is really run down.
So you're almost educating the agencies as to what you're doing, teaching them about rent to rents, about...
But then the agencies also educated me last week. When I was speaking to the agent, I was actually inquiring about a BRR, and he was like, oh yeah, that's the ex-rental. And I was like, I think we're looking at the wrong one. He was like, no, it's up for 425. And I was like, oh, potentially. He told me the address, and the house was different. The same road, same price, different house. And in my mind, I was like, well, if it used to be a rental and it's up for sale, we can go down the line of a lease option. And now we're in negotiations for a lease option, a 2-bed terraced house.
Amazing.
In Watford in Hertfordshire.
Wow. So lease option on the table, BRR going through. How many deals are you packaging and selling on average? Like how much are you making from the deal sourcing side of things?
We've sold, I think we've just hit our 25th has gone through since the end of December. And we've got about 5 bespoke clients that we keep always at the 5, which we rotate. As soon as we source one, then we'll...
So that alone then, you must have made quite a lot of money from the deal selling side of things.
Yeah,
100%.
a lot. It was a strange one how we got into deal sourcing, because when we did your training and you got the 5 C's, we started with the rent to rents, but within probably a week after the joining the academy, we secured our first rent to rent, and then a couple of weeks after we got another, then a couple of weeks after we secured another 2, and then we were living together at that time, and he got ill, which automatically means I'm gonna get ill. So it was either we can't go out and do viewings for our own rent to rents, so we either make no money in December, or how can we pivot and make money throughout the Christmas period and coming into the new year. So it's probably about a 10-15 minute decision straight away, rebranded, flipped the strategy. And then from our sofa, we were really ill. We ended up sourcing about 8 properties, because the last 2 we secured were in a new development. So we've already seen it, we've already done the numbers, and it was a brand new development, which means all the other flats were available, and we knew the numbers. So all we did was packaged every single apartment in the development, and we sold them from our sofa.
And where is that, in Watford?
No, it's
Hemel Hempstead.
15 minutes away.
Are all of your deals in Hertfordshire?
All of them.
All of them.
A lot of people would say if they lived in Hertfordshire, 'cause it's quite an expensive area, and it's also, it's not, I wouldn't say it's quiet, but it's not the hustle and bustle of a big city like Birmingham or Manchester. So a lot of people, if they lived in an area like Hertfordshire, they would think, oh, I need to move area. I need to either go to London or I need to go to Birmingham, but you've actually utilised your patch. And that's something that we teach. We teach people to
100%.
to work on where they live to begin with. And sometimes even if you live in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere, it's like, okay, well, maybe I could convert some of the animal barns to holiday lets and then get capital allowances and get this. And so there's always stuff you can do in your area. So you've managed to do rent to rent, lease options, deal sourcing, BRL, all within Hertfordshire, which I think is really interesting. How did you break into Hertfordshire?
We obviously sat down and just looked at the area, and Hertfordshire on a map does look like a farm until you start scrolling through and you can see these little areas. And then you just need to dig deeper and see why would people be traveling into this area. And because we were born there, we know what's happening in Watford, we know what's happening in the different towns. So then that's where we started looking and dominating that area.
And I think that the main thing about your patch is service accommodation isn't just for leisure and just for tourists. I'm pretty sure we don't have any tourists at our properties in Hertfordshire. No one goes to party like in Hemel Hempstead. Yeah, it's a small town and there's a huge hospital, nothing going on that would attract tourists or leisure users. So I think once you start thinking outside the box and marketing to the right people, you will do well wherever it is.
What was your first deal and how long did it take to get it?
Our first deal was a rent to service accommodation in London. We were actually speaking to people around us of what we just, like the academy of what we're just getting into. And it turns out one of our friends' dads just had a property there, wasn't tenanted for a year. So then we started speaking to him, ended up taking that on. So because it's in London, we are pushing for the long-term, over 90-day bookings. So we're happy to take a smaller fee, so smaller profits at the minute, probably about 600-700 a month.
Amazing. What do you mean when you said about you have longer bookings there because it's in London? Why is that?
So in London, there's a 90-day rule for short-term accommodation, short-term stays. It is mostly on the Airbnb platform, which will stop you doing it. But again, it is a rule across the whole of London. So anything over 28 days will be classed as a medium-term stay. So we do market our property on Rightmove, on Zoopla, and we tend to get quite a lot of relocators. So at the minute, we've just accepted a booking for a couple moving from India. So they're booking our accommodation for 2 months whilst they're exchanging and picking up the keys for their personal house.
And what contracts do you use?
We use contracts called LTO, which is a license to occupy. So it's not a short-term contract, it is for a medium and long-term contracts. So with the guests, they don't have tenant rights, but they're also not, it's not the same as like if you were staying at a hotel. This is that nice in-between where there's a obviously 90-day rule. It's just outside that grey area where you're allowed to carry on working and operating throughout the whole
It's so
year.
important to know the rules of your patch as well. And I mean, this is something that we bang on about the deal finding extravaganza, which is, you know, the prime your patch, go through the rules and
100%.
licensing, planning, because you can end up getting fined, going to prison even if you completely ignore the rules. So
I mean, I help out quite a lot of the academy members, and I get that question all the time about the 90-day rule. And I don't think it's something to be scared about. I think you're always going to hit like hurdles, you're always going to have challenges, but there's always an answer to them, and you just have to be creative around the way that you actually operate. If there's when I took on the one in London, I've thought in my head, if there's management companies and their sole purpose, their whole business is based around service accommodation in London, I was like, it must work.
So your rent-to-rent portfolio then, it's all systemised. You've got one in London and then the rest are in Hertfordshire. How much does that make profit across the 5?
It's on average about £1,000 each, about 5,000 a month profit.
What have you found the biggest challenges with running a serviced accommodation business?
Just the random guests calling you up. That's probably the challenge. For us, the securing the deal was pretty straightforward, setting it up pretty straightforward. And then when, like as I mentioned with that bird situation, that's 9:30 at night or something, and then that happens. So that was a challenge that you just have to either find someone to deal with that. The agent side is also a challenge. When you're starting, again, it's all building relationships. You need to be able to speak to everyone on the list, create a list of agents or landlords, call through all of them. If they don't answer, call again. That's probably the challenge you'll face when you're starting out. But again, it all goes down to a process. If you got the process, follow the process, and you're always going to win.
I think one important thing when starting out is the main challenge is the agents and the landlords will keep on saying no. And what we've started recently in the last couple of months with deal sourcing is when we speak to the agents and they say no, to be like, do you mind if we send you an email of a breakdown what we do, just in case someone comes up later and they inquire about company lets. So we send them a nice email, a breakdown of everything, which is our sales pitch. But when you read it, it's read as a nice email. And we send it off to the agent. And now the agent, we just say, please copy and paste to every landlord that may inquire. And they copy and paste it. So now we get the agents to pitch the landlords. And then they just come back calling saying, we've got someone just bought a property to us. They are interested.
And what's the gist of the pitch? What did you say on the email?
It's near enough. It's near enough the same on the phone pitch.
So go on, let's hear it.
It goes through saying, thank you so much for speaking to us on the phone earlier. Just so we can introduce ourselves. My name is Mitch. I run Vaughan Property Group with my brother Gav. We've got many legs to our business, but so I don't confuse you, this is the main avenue that we're looking for. This is what I mentioned on the phone. And then we go through what rent to rent is and what kind of properties we're looking for. So we're looking for 2 beds, 3 beds. It could be units or apartments or houses, anywhere where the landlord will be open for us renting the property through our company. The benefits to this is X, Y, Z. So like stress-free. What else on the top of my head?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. We're going to fully furnish it.
Long-term contracts.
Yeah. And then we list everything, all the pros. We're touching the cons as well. To be like, hey, we obviously understand there are loads of people doing this out there, and they don't provide the best service. Here's a couple things just about us overall in general. And then we just talk about ourselves and our background, introduce ourselves, because the idea is if they're going to copy and paste it, all well and good selling your services, but they're going to buy from you as a person.
You need a unique selling proposition.
And the next day, or when we see something listed, we give them a call. Hey, hopefully, did you get my email? They'll be like, yeah, we did.
Oh, you follow up then. That's good.
You always need that problem solution, wherever you pitch it.
The second they list something online, we will call them again. Let's be like, hey, Gav, did you get my email? Yeah, mate. So that one on Queen Street, is that one still available? Is the landlord? Did you ask them? Oh, mate, no, I haven't asked them yet, but I will do. I'll get back to you this afternoon. Do you mind if I call you this afternoon to chase it? And they'll be like, yeah, no worries. This afternoon.
Wow.
You have to be very active. You have to get your name out there.
I can tell you guys used to work on a telesales company. Yeah. But also as well, it's about being personable as well, not annoying. And adding value and ultimately thinking, what does the landlord want? What does the agent want? And how can I give them what they want? And with the deal selling as well, you've sold 30 deals. 5 of them are bespoke, which means that you're charging up front without even having a deal.
Yeah.
How are you getting all these investors? Where are they coming from?
Any opportunity we get, we'll speak up, whether it's on the masterminds, at dinners. The best thing about us is my network's Mitch's network and Mitch's is mine. So when it gets to dinners or networking events, we'll literally walk through the door. I'll shoot around the right, he'll shoot around the left. We'll gather everyone's contacts, meet in the middle, and be like, productive, nice. Put them onto a list.
Sometimes people say, if only there was 2 of me. Well, there is. There's 2 of you. So what? So you're going to the academy dinners?
So a lot of the investors from the academy. We do networking events outside of the academy as well. We've made a group for Hertfordshire, and there are a few Hertfordshire property networking events.
Word of mouth as well is pretty big. You don't know who people know. So someone else's network can be your network if you build that relationship.
I've noticed that you've done. That's really good. If someone's more successful than you, you're very inquisitive and you'll ask questions to learn.
Yeah.
But also with people that are new and they're starting out on the academy, you'll also happily let them pick your brain.
Yeah.
And you'll share. And I think when you do that, then people start raving about you and people will be saying on the WhatsApp chats and stuff, oh, shout out to the property twins. I just got my first deal and they gave me a golden nugget here, there. And when you build your brand in that way, you actually think, how can I add value to the community? How can I be an asset to the community? People feel more trustworthy to do deals with you and to buy deals from you. I mean, you mentioned your BRR. Talk to me about that.
The BRR, so we've put in 2 offers last week. One of them we're speaking to a planning consultant at the moment, just to see if logistically it would actually work. We need to convert a basement, which is a commercial unit in the basement, into another dwelling. That's up for 230, and it's 2 stories that will be converted into a 2-bedroom apartment, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, a 2-bedroom apartment, and that will push the value up by 100,000. The build cost would be around 30,000, so about 70,000 profit in that.
How are you getting the money to do all this? Because you mentioned about cash buyer, but you're not using your own money, are you, to do all
No,
this
we haven't
stuff?
actually used a penny. We won't
Even
be
this
using a
last
penny.
rent to rent, we haven't put any of our own money into it.
Yeah,
but
so we're joint venture on the build with the building and the maintenance team that looks after all the rent to rents. They do the build and we pay at the end. And then for the deposits, we're using investors' funds.
Who's putting the money in? How did you find the investor?
Yeah, some of them are friends, some of them are family members, and a lot of them come from the academy. Just putting your name out there. Some people are making passive income from their own portfolio and then join the academy to start again as such.
You never know who's got money until you ask the question.
That's so true. And on the academy, there's a real mix. And people that have got hundreds of thousands of pounds or even millions of pounds are often quite quiet about it.
Yeah.
So until you sit with people and chat with them and you think, oh my gosh, you can't ever prejudge or assume.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's incredible. What would be your top tips then to people wanting to sort of emulate what you've done? With very little money, you've built up a nice portfolio. You're getting $5,000 off your rent to rents. How much on average would you say you're making now from the deal selling?
About 20,000 pounds a month.
£20,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're charging hefty finder's fees.
A lot of the fees, on average, it will be £3,000 to £5,000 for a normal rent to rent. But a lot of them we're packaging now, and we might be selling blocks at a time. So 5 units to 10 units at once to one investor. So instead of charging 3,000, we charge 15 or 10, 15, 20,000 pounds for the deal.
Yeah. We also got to a point where we noticed all our customers or investors were just paying the 3,000. That was it. So then we sat down, we came up with a plan. How can we maximize the cost per investment?
Yeah. What kind of deals will get more money? And
Yeah.
Not just that, we've got the add-ons now.
we can
So we've got the
offer.
furnishing and staging, the project management, complete management afterwards. If they need finance, we can plug them into our brokers. And now instead of that 3,000, they're paying for additional services.
There's a lot of services in Hertfordshire. If you buy a deal from us in Hertfordshire, we will give you our cleaner, our maintenance team, everything that we've got in our power team, we will give you free of charge. And we say that to people.
so they're not just paying for the deal, they're also paying for your connections in the area.
The cleaners, the whole power team, the after sale care as such, if you want to put it like that, like plugging you into a management company, helping you out, set up
Did you
everything.
think you'd be as successful as you are? Are you surprised that you're making 20 grand plus you've got 5 rent to rents, you're doing a BRR, lease option?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I've always had it in me.
I knew we were
and
gonna
I'm
do
always
well.
passionate and I've got that hunger, but I'm surprised how quick it's taken.
Yeah.
Were you skeptical at first at all? I mean, you talked about the power of mentoring and you've clearly believed in investing in yourself from the beginning and having a mentor. Were you ever skeptical? Did you think, is this property thing, is this really gonna?
I think most people's answer would be yes. And the same as myself. I don't know about Gav, but when I first started, from watching a YouTube video to go into a pound crash course to sit in this chair today, it's been such a journey. And anyone watching this now would probably think about exactly the same. Oh, maybe it's a Samuel. I don't know. Maybe he pays people to come over to his house to speak, because loads of people have said that to me. Oh no, all these people on YouTube, yeah, it's just like all the part of the marketing. Well, it's not, because I was in that same situation like a few months ago, and it's definitely not part of the marketing.
Because you don't really see, everyone's used to going to uni and going, like, working a job. You don't really hear much about property unless you're in property. So I guess that's where I was just kind of thinking, okay, I'm starting a completely new industry, don't know anything about it, just signed up to the academy, now what?
Yeah.
But then we had your training, met the team, followed the process. You've given us the blueprints. All we've done is taken action.
But I remember the day you joined the academy, and I remember came up to me and said, one of you came up to me and said, so what happens now then? What's the process? Do we have an onboarding? And I answered. And then about 5 minutes later, you came back and asked me the exact same questions and I was thinking, of course it was, it was the other one. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
I was speaking to Ibby a lot, and Ibby, I signed up with Ibby, and he's been great support. I actually got off the phone to him last night, And I hassled him when I started, but that's what you have to do. Keep calling, keep picking people's brains to get to where you want to be. But I remember it was the Thursday and it was the dinner night, and the only table that was left was your table with you, Tony, all the mentors really. I'm sitting next to Sue and Gavin on my other side, and everyone else is the mentors. And I just felt overwhelmed. So I've only just signed up. I'm sitting on the table with like all the big dogs, and I need to ask questions. But obviously, the first question that came to mind was, so what do I do now? Like I just can't really turn to the person that just signed up and be like, so what do we do? It's like I need to make an impression.
Yeah, that was a key point. It's you need to talk to people. You need to ask for help. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. The mentors are there to book as many calls as you want. And you've obviously, we're in the academy. We're there to be trained, and we're there for the mentors to help. So book as many as you can and go through the training.
Yeah, I think regardless your experience, regardless what you've done so far in your life, you just have to be coachable every day. If you're not coachable and you're not letting people teach you, that's where your success is going to stop.
Well, you've done absolutely amazingly well so far, and you're still only halfway, not even halfway through the academy.
5 months in.
Yeah.
So 5 months in. So really excited about seeing what you continue to do. And thanks so much for coming and sharing the story as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.